well, someone has to clean this up. And I was just like, well, it ain't gonna be me, you know? Because I didn't do it. What up, peachy peeps? This is the video you have all been waiting for. This is the video that I attempted to make twice, yet failed. Not because of emotional reasons, mostly because the first time, I had just gotten out of class. It was early in the morning. I was going to go get my eyebrows done right after, so I looked like a mess. That was the first time. The second time, I fixed myself up. I went to the park. The only problem was I went at 5, and with this damn daylight savings, that didn't work out. Within 20 minutes, the sun went down. It was also a mess. Kick back, get your popcorn, because today is a good video. Story time video. Basically, I quit / got fired from my dad's job. My dad's restaurant. Sorry. Where do I start? Let's rewind a bit in my life. Me and my father never had a really good relationship with each other. He was always sleeping. But then again, I do understand because he did suffer from depression, anxiety, and who knows what else. Which I now have, and I completely understand. But he also has a personality where, to say it bluntly, he's an asshole. Okay. I guess we can fast forward now. Yeah. So to me, this wasn't a tragedy. It wasn't, I was actually happy that I got the courage to get up and say, I'm done. You know how I told you guys in the get to know me video that I worked at a Halloween store, as well as have been working at that restaurant for most of my life. My brother, my younger brother, he is 19 now. He was actually the one that got me into the Halloween store because he's a really good worker there. He has been working there for 2 months. Well, he started 2 months ago. It's the Halloween store is closed. I miss you guys, by the way. If any of you guys are watching this, shout out to you. Anyway, so he was working 14 hours a day, every single day of the week for 2 months. So in that time, we're very short-staffed at the restaurant. So if my brother is not there, then it is basically just me, my aunt, and my dad. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Jessica, if you're watching this, we miss you, but girl, I feel you for not wanting to come back, because I know. So for the past 2 months, I've had to work with my dad alone, which is horrible. Progressively, he's been getting worse. I mean, prior to my brother not being able to work, he was okay to work with. I mean, he's my dad. I always put up with him. It was fine. But this past weekend, something changed. He was worse than I had ever seen him. I was thinking maybe he didn't take his pills, he was going through something. I didn't know what, but he was just like he had never been before. Is my mom home? That wasn't her. Thank God. I didn't want the third attempt to go out the window. So, continuing on with the story. I'm sorry if this is long, by the way. It's a really good story time. Especially since I just recently last week did a get to know me, what I do for a living, and it all went down the drain this past week, and this is why. Okay, I cannot express how hard of a time he gave me. I mean, maybe some of you guys have shitty fathers, but let's just get to the first thing that happened that just kind of pushed me, you know? Okay, so I'm doing everything that I possibly can to make sure that my customers are okay, right? Treated professionally, because I am a professional, and, you know, waited on just perfectly, you know? I want this to be a good experience for them. I'm also on my shit because I know my dad has been more and more kind of giving me his peace of mind about how I do my job and telling me what to do, and I just didn't want him to do that anymore. I want him to come out to the front and see that everyone is taken care of and I am doing fine. I had a bunch of tables. He comes out, he sees a couple with the menus in front of them, and he immediately yells at me saying, "Go take those people's orders." Okay, whenever I imitate him, do not at all compare, because the way his voice, his tone is just so harsh, mean. It's as if he wants to stab you with his words, okay? So he was all like, "Go take those people's orders. They've been waiting for such a long time." And so I immediately go over to them, ask them politely if they're ready to order, and they say, "No, we're gonna need a couple more minutes." I come back to him and I say, "See, they weren't even ready to order." Hair flip as well. Pure shade. I didn't care because he's yelling at me in front of the customers, and I just thought it was rude, so I wanted to, you know, do a little shady back. So second, once again, I'm paying attention to all my tables. I know what's going on. I picked up this lady's plate, and I noticed that her husband's 2 plates still had pancakes and, you know, eggs, whatever was on his plate. You know, he's still eating is what I'm trying to say. So I obviously left those plates alone. He looks over at that table and he goes, "Why are those plates still on the table? Go pick them up." And I look over and I'm like, "What plates?" He looks over again. The guy is taking a bite and he goes, "Never mind, that's right. He's still eating." Whew. At this point, you know, I think I'm doing good. I think I'm kind of making him feel stupid, showing him that he's wrong, that I'm able to do my job, right? So, third, my dad went to the back to make the last pot of coffee. After a certain time, we stop making coffee because we know it's not going to get sold, right? After breakfast time. So he makes the last pot of coffee and he announces to everyone not to make any more coffee. Oh, I missed a little important detail. So this past weekend was the first weekend that my brother came back from the Halloween store. So he was able to come back for the first time, which was great because me and my brother are a great team. But for some reason my dad stayed. Maybe because it was his first week back and he wanted to just kind of patrol or he kind of wanted to keep an eye on the place, make sure we were doing okay. But mostly he was on my ass. He was okay, forget it. So moving back to what I was saying, he made the last pot of coffee. He told people not to make another pot. We all know that. I actually threw some shade and said, "You're the only one that makes extra coffee." Because he is. You know, who else? I don't make any more coffee after it's not time. So He leaves for a little bit, which is always relieving because there's no one to push my buttons. He comes back and he sees that there's coffee dripping out of the pot in the coffee maker. And so at first he goes for my brother. Who made this pot of coffee? My brother says, not me. After my brother says, not me, he comes to the front, says, Ashley. I'm like, what? He pulls me to the back, shows me the coffee maker, and says, I told you not to make any more coffee. I told everyone not to make any more coffee. And I said, I didn't do that. Straight up, I didn't do that because I didn't. Sorry. And he goes on saying whatever bullshit he was saying. And I just, progressively getting louder, said, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Because I didn't. Ugh. Okay. So, after that, what happened? Oh, let me tell you this. So, he actually said, well, someone has to clean this up. And I was just like, well, it ain't gonna be me, you know? Because I didn't do it. So I go to the front. I'm taking care of more customers, not worrying about that pot of coffee because I figured, you know, someone in the back will clean it. Someone in the back did end up cleaning it. Put a fresh pot. Didn't start up a new coffee because obviously my dad would have murdered whoever did that. So there's just an empty pot sitting right in the coffee maker. A lot of time goes by and I go back there and I see that there's still, at this point it's not coffee, it's just colored water. So there's water dripping into the pot and I look at it and I'm like, no way. My dad made the last pot of coffee, but he fucked with the coffee machine so much that he broke it, and for some reason all this water is dripping and no one made a new pot of coffee. He was the last one that made the coffee and fucked up the coffee machine. So I just couldn't wait till he got back to rub that in his face. But the fourth thing that happened made me forget all about that and just... I have this customer, his name is Henrik. He's on the younger side, and by young, I don't mean my age young, I mean younger than most of the customers that we get. The point is, he's a talkative guy. So I go over to him purely to ask if he wants more Diet Coke, right? Because he drinks a lot of Diet Coke. He drinks a lot of whatever he's drinking. He's a very thirsty person. Not in that sense. He says yes, and then he starts talking about something. While this is happening, I hear the door behind me. I hear someone walking up to the register. However, my dad comes out of the kitchen in that moment. Of course, what he saw, I was with my back towards that customer and I was talking to Henrik. So, he's standing near my brother and I hear him say, look at her, with her back against the customer while she wants to order, talking to the other customers, ignoring the customer. At this point, I'm heated. I go to the back, I refill his Diet Coke, and I explain to my father that this lady had just walked in. I was not ignoring her. If 2 seconds had gone by, I would have swung around and said, I'll be with you in just a moment. But no, because all this happened within 5 seconds and I didn't get a chance to do anything. And he's the type to be like, shut your big mouth. Don't talk to me like that. What else does he say? I'm getting a headache just thinking about him, honestly, because you guys don't even know the half of it. It's bad. He's constantly telling me to shut up. He's the boss. So at this point, I bring him back his Diet Coke, and us waitresses, we have a side, like a corner where the customers can't see us. And so I go to that corner. Yes, sometimes when I go to that corner, I use my phone to text my boyfriend occasionally. Sometimes I go back there to take a couple hits of my fix, which is like a Juul if you don't know. Except in my opinion, 10 times better. Yes, I go back there to drink a Red Bull because in the morning I have to get up at 6, maybe 5:30 sometimes, just to get to that opening shift. I have to be there before 7 to open the doors. So yes, I grab a Red Bull from the restaurant. But this time I went to that corner to just not see his face. I did not want to see his face at this point. So I go back there, my phone is in my pocket, my fix is in my pocket. The Red Bull, however, is sitting there. He shows up and he just goes all out. All out. He starts yelling, "You always come back here to use your phone constantly. You come here to smoke that shit constantly. And you're drinking my Red Bulls, which you have to pay for. Imagine how many Red Bulls you've been drinking all this time. You have to pay me for all of those." Whew, first off, if I'm his daughter, right, he hasn't provided me with anything. Growing up, he didn't buy me anything. I bought my first car. I pay my phone bills ever since I got my phone. For my birthdays, he would offer to pay my phone bill. He would never get me anything. And if he did, like let's say, I don't know if it was a Valentine's Day or my birthday, but it was a teddy bear with a heart. My mom's here. So my mom actually came home that time, but I was not gonna let my third attempt go down the drain. So, as I was saying, the teddy bear ended up being from the garbage. There is a garbage bin outside of the restaurant, and he usually finds things there. Some are gems, some are not so much. Either way, it's from the trash. Why would you get your daughter something from the trash? Anyways, that Red Bull was $3, $2.50 even, and to ask me to pay for that was ridiculous because he never provided me any financial support growing up whatsoever. And so, I mean, till this day, he doesn't. So, he could have, I mean, I didn't end up paying for it, but the fact that he asked and he mentioned all of the Red Bulls that I must have drank in the past was just pretty ridiculous to me. So, moving on, I had left my tips there that day, and I knew I wasn't getting paid because of, well, you know, his greedy ways already from the whole Red Bull thing and the whole growing up thing. So I texted my brother asking if he could bring home my tips. 2 hours later, my brother got home with my tips, but what was strange was that he stayed an hour extra. I actually left only an hour before closing. I know I could have gripped my teeth and stayed, but I really couldn't. So when he got back home, I actually sat down with him and asked him because I really wanted to know what had happened after I left. I know they were talking about me. I know my dad wouldn't keep his mouth shut because he's the type of person that will talk behind your back. What he told me was the most interesting part. This is the part that explains why my title says I quit / got fired. because I don't really know how to word this right, but he basically said that he was getting everything out and, you know, basically pushing all my buttons because he knew I was gonna leave. He knew he was gonna push all the right buttons and I would say that I'm done. So, to paraphrase, he decided that since my brother was back, he was going to get under my skin just so that I wouldn't be there anymore, so that it would be just him and my brother, his favorite, obviously. And so yeah, isn't that fucked up to do to your daughter? I mean, the restaurant is the only place I even really got to see him. My parents split up 8 years ago, so I live with my mother. My brother shares the time, so work was the only place I got to see him. So to be able to cut ties that easily with your own daughter is just sad to me. It's really something else. So he got what he wanted. I left. He doesn't have to deal with me anymore. But there are better things for me coming. At least I know that much. There goes my whole story, I hope. I hope I didn't miss anything. Like the video if you liked it. If you can relate at all. If you have a shitty father as well and you pretty much know what it's like. And if you'd like to see more of me, please subscribe. Feel free. There's the subscribe button right down below. Comment maybe some positivity. Sometimes it gets depressing and the positive feedback really helps. So like, subscribe, comment, turn on your bell notifications maybe. I'm just really tired right now. So I guess I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.